Hello everyone. Are you an AGR soldier and you don't quite understand how your retirement works itself? Well, I'm going to straighten out one part of it tonight. Stand by. Hello everyone. This is DJ and welcome back to another episode. I'm going to talk to you AGR soldiers out there and straighten out one little misconception. I'm going to talk in a slightly confrontational, even accusational tone tonight, but that's mainly for entertainment value. It's not meant to offend. It's mainly for entertainment value. So please take it in the means that it's intended. It's all in jest, so take it that way. Now, in the reserve components, the biggest source of erroneous information out there is the very people that are supposed to be providing the right information, and that's the full-time staff at unit level. Whether it's a soldier being told he can't go to a school because he needs a haircut, or that he can't transfer to, or rather he can transfer to a reserve component even if he doesn't have a 20-year letter, or the ever so common, "I don't have time to deal with your problem" statement that he hears, even though he has a military-related issue, or a myriad of other problems or statements that he hears. The unit-level staff can often be traced back as the cause of a lot of issues with reservists, and actually the cause of a lot of retention-related issues. And this isn't just idle accusation either. Many moons ago, back when I was an attrition manager for a 600-man unit, I had to investigate the causes of many problems soldiers were reporting, and when I filtered out all of the outlying distractions from each case, the similarities were striking. In many cases, I could identify the specific individuals for each subordinate case, each subordinate unit, who were the cause of these problems being reported. Now, in the case of these specific full-timers, maybe it was a lack of proper training, and if that's the case, then things have certainly been improving over the years. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm just talking about setting a baseline here that not everyone has the right information, and it can lead to improper statements either to a reservist or even to other full-timers. So the point here is, let's get the right information out there. So whether you're talking to a full-timer or a part-timer, by the way, for those of you who are not National Guard, we call the part-timers M-Day soldiers. I want to talk about how full-timers mislead part-timers or mislead themselves in this case. There are other areas I want to discuss at a later date for both sides, and we'll get to that later on. Right now, let's talk about the AGR soldier. AGR stands for Active Guard / Reserve, and these are an interesting category of service member. They are a reserve component member who is on active duty. They are receiving active pay, active duty pay and allowances, active duty benefits, but they are still in a reserve component. Somehow, over time, this group of service member has come to believe that they are a special class. And even though I am an AGR soldier myself, I do somehow get a bit of a kick out of knocking them down a peg. I am known as very often saying that AGR soldiers are nothing more than glorified M-Day soldiers, since all it would take is canceling their active duty orders and they are part-timers again. A bit harsh, I know, but that's my nature. Anyway, let me get to my point. There are a great many ways in which AGR soldiers tell themselves that their benefits work in a way that they actually don't. Things that are not quite true. One of these not quite true facts is what happens to their reserve service once they become an AGR soldier. The common misconception amongst the AGR community is reserve service no longer counts once you become AGR. I've actually heard that. And this is not actually true. And I can hear it already. But DJ, my reserve service doesn't get added into my active duty retirement once I hit 20 active years, so therefore my reserve service doesn't count. Pardon me while I laugh maniacally. Thank you for stepping into my trap, so to speak. You are still serving in a reserve component after all. Let's say someone pushed the pause button on your reserve service when your AGR orders were published. You never left a reserve component, you just entered a slightly different status. If you leave AGR service before reaching 20 years of active duty service, then you are an M-Day soldier again. Make sense? Keep that in the back of your mind. Now, let's talk about dates. There are a lot of different types of dates in the military. Pay entry base date, date of rank, date of initial entry into military service. Some of these can change and some of them don't. I'm going to talk about one that can change. When you enter any long-term period of active duty, 30 days or more in this case, all of your prior active duty service, regular component, annual training, active duty for special work, etc., is added together and subtracted from the day that your active guard orders start. This date becomes what is called your basic active service date. And it is usually, at least in the National Guard, expressed as an 8-digit date. For example, 2003-06-19. The first 4 digits are the year, the 5th and 6th are the month, and the last 2 are the day. And just in case you're interested, the way to find out when your 20 years of active duty service would be over is just add 20 to the year part of that date, and there you have it. Of course, it's not a guarantee. Keep that in your head as well. That's another misconception that a lot of AGRs have. It's a guarantee. I'm going to have 20 years. No, it's not. There are a lot of surprises out there. But to quote from the book, The Never-Ending Story, that's another story for another time. Now, let's say you do reach that magical mark of 20 years of active duty service and decide to take advantage of that vaunted active duty retirement package. Well, those years you spent as a reservist take on their own mystical quality at this point. All of those retirement points that you earned from weekend drills, from membership points and correspondence courses, etc., transform, so to speak, into equivalent active duty points and get added to your active duty retirement. Think of this as a bonus at the end of your active duty career. And I'll even show you an example. And for you in podcast land, I'll explain it. So I'm showing here a tabulation of a person who spent many years as an M-Day soldier. This individual spent a significant portion of his career as an M-Day soldier before becoming AGR, from 1994 to 2008. The time from 2004 to 2008 is not shown because he had 2 deployments overseas, so those are not visible. Anyway, all of the inactive duty points he earned from 1994 to 2008 when he went AGR are added up to come up with a final tally of 798. Now, this might seem like a humble number. This might not seem like a lot at first. But let's look at what happens to those points at the end. So, what does happen? These points are divided into equivalent into equivalent years, months, and days of active duty service. So if this individual is able to complete 20 years of active duty service, then he will have 2 years, 2 months, and 18 days of additional active duty added to his final service. Let's just say, for example, that he has 20 years, 3 months, and 12 days of active service as an AGR soldier. His service as an M-Day soldier, which is called 1405 service, by the way, will give him a final tally of 22 years and 6 months of total active duty service, and his retired pay will be based on that final amount rather than his AGR service alone. So how's that for a nice little bonus? Now, one thing I should mention here, 1405 service will not help you reach 20 years of active federal service, AFS. It will only be added to your AFS at the end. That's the law, guys. That's how it's written. And another bit of trivia for you is for retired pay calculations for active duty, you're only paid for full years and full months. Anything less than a full month, even if it's 29 days, is dropped from the retired pay calculation. Now, some people might wonder, why did I bother making an episode that's primarily for active duty people? And the answer is quite simple. AGR soldiers are reservists in the end, and they need the right information just like the typical M-Day soldier does. That's why I made this. So that's the end of it right there. Hopefully this has been entertaining at least and informative. Now, before I get into my announcements, I do want to add one little quick announcement. Last night, I was chatting with a retiree named Henry, who regaled me with a very heartfelt personal biography. Part of that story was about the loss of his son, Tyler, who would have been turning 19 this year. I decided, based on the emotional nature of that story, in fact, the effect it had on me at the time, that I would dedicate this episode to this retiree and to his son. So this episode is dedicated to Tyler and to Henry. So to you, Henry, strength and honor. Thank you for telling me this story, and thank you for your service as well. All right. So believe it or not, that's the end of the episode. I do want to let you know about a few plans I have for the future. As I have said in the past, my own retirement for medical reasons is upcoming, and I have some ideas for what is to follow. I've made it perfectly clear that I plan on continuing this YouTube channel, this website, this podcast, and that it will become my full-time job. Part of what I would like to do as a way to get this going is a very ambitious, let's call it trip, a little travel arrangement that I'd like to do next year. What's going through my mind, and this is where I would really like to have input from all of you, is ideas, thoughts, anything at all, any input you might have about this harebrained idea of mine. What's going through my mind right now is a trip from my home base in Georgia to every National Guard headquarters, every state headquarters, and every National Reserve headquarters to interview their retirement services section and get a good informational foundation of the retirement benefits and the unique specifics of what is needed to apply for those specific benefits for each state and each specific component. I want to develop from that a guide that is then made available on the website for reservists to use. Now, this is a long trip. Just from the analysis I've done, it would be 4 to 6 months and, of course, cost a lot of money. I'll worry about that as it goes. I'm going to have to come up with ways to finance it. And again, that's where I'd like input from all of you. How can I do this? How can I make this happen? There are a lot of ways to make it happen, and one person can't possibly think of everything. So with thousands of people out there, maybe everything can coalesce into one grand scheme, and what seems like pure fantasy at this point in time can become reality sometime next year. Let's see what happens. There are some things I want to add to the website. They're in development right now. Some of them are automated retired pay applications to make things easier for the retirement community, and a couple of other harebrained ideas that are too early in the developmental stage to actually tell you about right now, but there is more forthcoming. I also would like additional input from all of you as far as ideas for topics. I, again, can't think of everything, but you guys have had phenomenal input. For example, the SpeakPipe widget has produced a great many ideas for topics over the last several months. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but I've come up with several over the months just from that, so please keep that coming. That is a wonderful source, so keep those coming. Anything you have from email or SpeakPipe is great. That's a wonderful source of information. Also, something that's running through my head is the thought of having regular, and right now I'm thinking monthly, YouTube live events. So I would also like to get your input on, would you be interested in attending regular YouTube live events just to throw out your questions and get my input on them? I don't have a day or a time in mind right now. Let's just say in the evenings for the moment, and you can throw out your suggestions for what day and even what time. Obviously, since I'm going to be retired in the next several months, I'll be flexible as far as day and time. But let's get that into your thoughts as well. What would you like to see, be it YouTube Live or other additions that I can make to this channel, to the website, to the podcast? What other content would be beneficial both to the website, to the channel, and to the reserve retirement community at large? So again, this is looking for information from you and everyone out there. All right, so that is all for this week. As always, if you have not already hit the subscribe button over here, then I ask that you do so. Be sure to hit the like button as well and comment down below. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, then please do so, and also be sure to write a quick review. A sentence or two in iTunes is just fine. Be sure to spread the word about all of these types of content to others you might know who could benefit from this information. Let's get everyone out there in the world, well, obviously not everyone, but everyone in the military reserve community out there listening and watching this content so that they can learn how to take advantage of the benefits they're earning. Because the more you know, the better decisions you can make. And obviously, as I joked in this episode itself, sometimes the full-time staff don't do the best job, although it is getting better. So have them come here where at least they can hear it in plain English. So as always, thank you for being part of this audience, and thank you for your service. I'll see you next week. If you liked what you heard on today's episode, then please go below and give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to this channel. Also, please let other people know about this channel and the information it can provide for them. If you have questions or comments, then have no qualms about posting them in the comments section below. Please remember the RC Retirement YouTube channel and the RC Retirement website are not recognized or endorsed by the Department of Defense, the Department of Veterans Affairs, or any other government agency. The information presented in these resources are for entertainment and informational purposes only. Also, the content of either of these resources should not be considered financial or legal advice. Please consult with your own legal counsel, accountant, and financial planner before making any decisions based on what you have learned here. As always, thank you for watching the RC Retirement YouTube channel.